Hello, second grade, and welcome to math class today. So today I'm going to be teaching you Chapter 11, Lesson 12. It begins on page 715. So this lesson is called Measurement Data. So those are both words we have studied a lot in second grade. So measurement we've learned all about in this chapter. So measurement is measuring the length of something using different units of measurement. So we've learned how to measure in inches. We've learned how to measure in centimeters. We've learned how to measure in yards and meters. So those are different units of measurement that we have learned about. Data may sound familiar to you. That goes back to Chapter 9, which was called Data Analysis. So remember, the word data is a fancy word for information. So in Chapter 9, we learned how to collect data. So we would ask a survey question and then collect data, collect information on it, and then we would display that data. So different ways we learn to display data include a line plot, which we'll use in this chapter. We learned about bar graphs. We learned about tally charts, and we learned about picture graphs. So those are all ways we learn to display data. So I would recommend before this chapter, maybe take a peek back at Chapter 9, page 519, all about data analysis. So after we display our data, in whichever way we choose, we would also analyze our data. So to analyze data means to ask questions about it. All right, so measurement data. In the Explore and Explain box, I see something that looks awfully familiar. Yep, it's a line plot. So a line plot is a number line that has this one has 0 to 12, and of course it has arrows on both ends because numbers go down into the negatives past 0 and up from 12. That's not where numbers stop, so we have our arrows on either end. I'm noticing a title to our line plot. The title is pencil lengths, so that tells you what this data will have to do with. I'm also noticing a unit of measurement. It is inches. So that's telling me we're measuring pencil lengths in inches, and we are going to display that information on this line plot. So here's our directions. Measure 5 of your classmates' pencils with a ruler. Make a line plot using the data from your measurements. So we're not in our classroom, we're at our at-home classroom. So I want you to go around your house and find 5 pencils. All right, your next job is to collect some data. So you're going to measure each of those pencils in inches. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and measure my first pencil. I'm going to line it up. Ooh, 7 inches. So to represent that, I am going to put an X right over the 7, just like that. All right, I'm going to measure my next pencil. Here's my next pencil. 7 inches. Okay, so I'm going to put another X on top of my first X to show my second pencil is also 7 inches. All right, so spoiler alert, I got all these pencils from the same box and they're pre-sharpened, and I've used them a little bit, but not a whole lot. So they might all be the same length, but we'll see. All right, I'm going to measure this one. What do you think it is? You got it, 7 inches. All right, so I'm going to put my third X. That's my third pencil that's 7 inches. What do you think, second grade? Think it's another 7? It's a 7. All right, that's my fourth pencil that's 7 inches. And now I'm going to measure my last pencil. What do you think it is? Wow, you guys nailed it, 7 inches. All right, so this is what my data looks like. I measured 5 pencils. They were all 7 inches. So maybe your data will be a little more interesting, a little more diverse than mine is, but that's what my line plot looks like. So now I could analyze this data too. I could ask, what is the most common pencil length? For me, it's 7 inches. All right, what is the longest pencil? 7 inches. What is the shortest pencil? 7 inches. All right, so again, maybe your data will be a little more interesting than mine, but my pencils were boring today. So go ahead and turn the page to page 716. We're in the See and Show box. So you're going to notice another line plot. So let's first study this line plot. Let's look at the title. It is shoe length. That tells us what our data has to do with. Let's look at the unit of measurement, centimeters. So we have to switch our brain to centimeters from inches. We're measuring in centimeters because that's important, that unit of measurement. If someone had a foot that was 23 feet long, they would have to be a giant. So I don't know any. All right. So now they already collected the data. So remember, a line plot tells how many times a number occurs in data. So we already have our x's showing how many times those numbers occur in data. So now we can go right to analyzing. How many people have shoes that are 23 centimeters long? So let's find 23 on our number line. There it is. And let's count how many times that number occurs, or how many people have shoes that are 23 centimeters. So 1, 2. So that means 2 people have shoes that are 23 centimeters long. All right, so up next it says measure the length of the right hand, that's the hand we would use for a handshake, of 10 people in inches. Use the data to make a line plot. So now we are going to go through the steps of collecting data, displaying data, and analyzing data. So you might not have 10 people available to measure their hand length, but you can get creative. You could call up your friends and see how long their hands are. You could ask a neighbor, ask everybody in your house, maybe call your grandparents, I don't know, but collect however much data you can. If it's not 10, that's okay. All right, so let's take a look at our line plot. It's going from 0 to 7. You might have to extend it if you know someone with really long hands. And again, of course, we have our arrows at both ends because numbers go into the negatives. They go past 7. All right, and we notice our title is hand length. That's what this data has to do with. And our unit of measurement is inches. So make sure you're measuring using inches. So get out your inch ruler. All right, so it's just me, myself, and I right now because Craig is working. And Philip, I mean, I could measure Philip's hands, but I won't do that to him. So I'm just going to measure my hands. Then later on, I'm going to ask Craig. Maybe I'll ask some of my neighbors, and I'll collect as much data as I possibly can. So to measure, I'm going to go from the base of my palm up to my tallest finger. And I see my hand is 6 inches long. So I'm going to put an X over the 6, just like that. So you're going to collect as much data as you can, figure out as many people's hand lengths as you can. Then you're going to analyze the data. So you're going to answer these questions about the data. So number 1, how long are most of the hands? So that'd be the number with the most X's over it. How long is the longest hand? So that'd be your greatest number of inches. That's your longest hands. All right. So on my own, starts on page 717. Whoa. So for this, you are going to measure 15 books in centimeters. And you are going to collect that data and then analyze it. You should have no problem with that one. And then the next one, you're going to measure 15 used crayons. If you don't have used crayons, just like we've done throughout this chapter, just get creative. Maybe use markers or pastels or chapsticks. I don't know. Just get creative with it if you don't have crayons. And you're, again, going to collect that data, display that data, and analyze that data. On the next page, you have a set of word problems. So these are really fun word problems. I was looking at them. So you're going to underline what's important and circle what you're looking for. Show your work. Think through your process. Make a plan. You're going to do awesome. And then your homework is very similar. You're going to be collecting data again to display on line plots. So it looks like you're collecting data on the length of people's thumbs. So again, just get creative. Maybe call up some friends, have them measure their thumb. And again, you have some word problems to do. All right, this is a super cool lesson. I hope you guys have a great time. You'll notice that after this is our review, which we're going to use as our math test. So that is going to be coming up early next week. So, all right, happy math time. I'll talk to you soon. Bye, second grade.